This is part 2 in the how-to for individual programming assignment, Prog 1. Let's go back to the course web page, Programming Assignments. Let's look a little more closely at this assignment. Prog 1, let's look at the description a bit. The goal is to take some inputs, which is the tax rate, and 12 monthly incomes for the months January through December, and to calculate the annual income, which, as you would imagine, means you got to take the 12 monthly incomes, add them up. That's the annual income. Then you must calculate the amount of taxes due as a percentage of the annual income. Right? Now, we have looked at the key program and we have seen what happens when you run it. And we need to look carefully at the inputs. The first input is the tax rate, and it's a decimal number between 0 and 0.5. Okay? If you want 10%, you represent it as 0.10. And you must put 12 monthly incomes. The outputs are the annual income, and it must appear as shown here. What's important? This is all caps. After the word income, there's a space, an equal sign, a space, a dollar sign, and a space. And then comes the number. Are we clear on that? Okay. The second output is the tax rate in this format, the income tax in this format. For this assignment, dollar amounts, we do not try to force them to have 2 decimal places. So don't go to any pains for that. Okay? And this says when you do this program, you should use a program that I've already given you. There's a shell program, there's a starter program. Let's back out and see what it is. It says use this starter source program. So what are we going to do here? Well, just like we did for part A, we're going to copy this. Control A copies everything in the window. Control C copies it. We're going to go to C++ shell. We're going to paste all of that in here. All right? Now notice that there's a few things you got to do. One is you got to change the year to 16. You've got to put your login in it and everything. So for right now, let's just compile this and see if it works. So let's just run it to see if it will compile. Okay? It compiles, and as you might imagine, it produces this output at the beginning, this output at the end, and that's all it does so far. As you evolve this program, you will put the statements in to do the things that are required. Now let's take a look here. Notice that I gave you a sample program earlier. Remember we said here's what your program should look like? So in this case it says declare your variables 1 per line. How many variables are there? Go back to the assignment. Go back. What did the assignment say? I have a tax rate variable. It's a decimal number, so the data type is float. Then I have 12 other decimal numbers, because income can be dollars and cents. So I need 13 variables here. So what do I have to do? Declare all the variables one at a time. Okay. This is kind of redundant, but I need you to get into the habit of this. So we have float, and we call this tax rate. And we can say, what is this? This is tax rate. All right. And then we've got to do what? We pay for all the months. So float, let's call it January pay. Okay? Let's just do it by quarters. February pay. March pay. and these are pay income for first quarter of the year. I'm not going to do any more, just showing you how to get started. Okay, that's all. All right, so we do that. Now as we do these declarations, we're creating variables. Let's make sure these things will compile. So if we try to run it again, you should get the same thing. Okay, so we've completed the first part. This simply says we have created the variable tax rate, but we have not used it yet, which is totally okay, because we're not filling that part in. Because what's the first thing we're going to do? Declare all your variables, and that's pretty straightforward. Then we're going to follow the algorithm. Okay? The algorithm says to solve this problem, I got to do this first. Notice that by the time I get down to the algorithm, I have all the variables that are needed. All these variables here should have been created. Okay? There is a little discrepancy in the way I've named them, but let's try to get that straight. I'll say capital J, capital F, capital M. A couple of things to notice. I've gone to great lengths to help you do this. I've given you the names of the variables, the types of the variables. So if you just follow this exactly as I have it, all you have to do is write a few C++ statements to accomplish each of these steps. If you look at your program over here, the algorithm is broken out. Oh, this is the general algorithm. It says read inputs. What does that mean? That means these two things over here go into reading the inputs. So what do you think you have to do here? Well, dang, it's already here. Okay, I've already put these in for you, haven't I? Shame on me. Okay? So all you got to do is put the statements in to do that. Couple things to notice, and if you don't do this, I'll be very upset. Notice that these comments have a funny look. They are dash, they're slash, forward slash, dash bar. And these comments constitute what we call algorithm comments. I gotta clean that. Okay? And these comments mean that I'm going to say what I need to do. Then I'm going to supply C++ statements to do what I said I needed to do. So I need whatever statements are required to read the tax rate, whatever statements are required to read the amount of pay for each of the 12 months. That goes here. Notice that when we type the code in, if we're using etiquette, what do we say? We're going to say, we don't read stuff, we say enter, right? Enter tax rate. Is that true? Something like that. I'm going to say enter. I'm not going to complete this. You got to do that. Followed by reading something. I'm going to stop right here. I don't want to do too much for you. All right. So that's doing the first part. It makes sense for you to say, for 1B, I'm going to skip a little line so I can say that 1A is what I did here. 1B will be what comes after this. And we know the statements to do this. Now, can we run this? If we do so, it's going to say enter something. So I'm going to put 0.44. Okay? And again, we're not doing anything with it yet, but we're reading it and continuing to the end of the program. Okay? Now, is everybody straight on how we do this? I'm going to show you this one thing here, and I think we'll be done. When we get down to step 5, our goal is to print something out that looks like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, because I said I wanted the output to appear the way I showed you. So let's give you some control. So when it's time to present the output, we know that we have to print out in the format that's given here. So I'm going to say what? Cout. You got to get used to this. I want this line to be on a line all by itself. So if I begin by saying inline, it says skip a line and then output this. What am I trying to output? annual space income space equal space $ space. Okay? This constitutes the label. What comes after it? Whatever the annual income is. Okay, I'm going to do a new line there. So that's how I output 3A. Making sense? So you can follow it up with the rest of this. All right? Now, we're going to run this, and it's going to say annual income was not declared, and that's correct because we forgot to declare. We started declaring things, and we didn't declare everything we need. So how do we declare the annual income? What's required? Come on, tell me. What type of value is it? It's a float. The name, according to our problem, says the name of the variable is going to be annual income. So let's just do it. Annual underscore income. This is the sum of monthly incomes. Alright? And notice I still want to have sections of my program separated by blank lines just to let me take a breather once I've completed one section. Now let's go ahead and run this again. And when we run it, we're going to say we got a variable called use the wrong variable name here. It should be annual income. Okay. All right. So we're going to do that again. Annual income is 0, and that you got lucky on that. Because again, we haven't added anything together yet. So I think I've shown you the skeleton of this program. Now let's remind ourselves, when we're done with the program, where do we go from here? If you're using C++ shell, you need to try this. One thing you can do is Control-A gives you everything. You can take that and paste it into a file of your choice. All right? It can be a file on your Mac or on your PC. And we can transfer that file over to Unix by dragging and dropping. That's one way. The other way we can do it is to just get the URL for this. And if you do that, you ought to be able to take that with you and go to that window and just download what you have. Let's see if that's going to work. Can I say save link as? I'm not sure what we can do with that. Okay. All right, with that I'm going to stop, and I hope I've shown you how to get started. It's important to follow the program assignment because it tells you exactly what you got to do step by step. There will be one or two things that you will have to get comfortable with, and it'll take practice. But as far as writing the program and getting it all together, I think we've gotten you started. With that, we're going to